الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وحبيبه وخليله وأمين روحه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وانظروا نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have, وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِّعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. And we are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all our needs. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ أَنتُمُ الْفُقَرَاءُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ هُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ. These two feelings and beliefs, the fact that Allah has given you so much and that you feel the urge to express your gratitude and thankfulness on one hand, and the second, the feeling that you are completely dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every moment in your life. They are very powerful forces that will drive you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll be grateful and also will be begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your needs. So you're making dua all the time and you're expressing shukr and gratitude all the time. But just to tell you, to let you know again, reminder that if you are using your phone during the khotbah, that can spoil your Jumu'ah. So make sure that unless it is something that is urgent, to put your phone away, turn it off and put it away. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, so we're continuing inshallah our series. I'm going to summarize in a couple of minutes what we covered so far. We start by talking about our situations that we have to accept that it is nowhere close where we are supposed to be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designated the status for us and place, which is to be shuhada al-nas, to be a model community and a leading community. We are nowhere close to that. Quran is clear. That's our normal situation, and we have our current abnormal situation, and the gap between them must and can be closed. That's the starting point. Firmly believe that we cannot afford to continue like this and to justify. And then that gap between where we are and where we're supposed to be must be closed and can be closed, and we went into details for this. Then we talked about the root causes, the deep roots of this situation, going all the way back to the fitna kubra or civil war that happened among Muslims, which resulted in the establishment of and legitimization, and that's the worst part of it, of the dynasty rule. Dynasty rule is hukm al-aila. Family is ruling, son from father, etc., and absolute power. And then eventually, starting from that political stagnation and oppression, we ended up with freezing ijtihad, and that's an intellectual stagnation. And if you combine the two, which lasted for more than 12 centuries of intellectual stagnation and political stagnation, then you can only have this situation that you see. Freezing of ijtihad, and then the taqleed or ta'assub, which we're still suffering from it until now, when the people will say whatever is not in our madhab, or our madhab is the deen. So anything that is different from our madhab is something that is outside Islam. No, your madhab is one interpretation of the deen, and other people have different interpretation, and You know that at a certain point in time, in the big mosque in Damascus, there used to be 4 prayers. One prayer for each mother. Why? Because they don't pray behind each other. That's where we reached because of this freezing of ijtihad and ta'assub. And people were discussing, can Hanafi marry a woman, Shafi'i, etc. We completely lost. So 12 centuries swinging between a time of dictatorship and time of chaos until a new dictatorship established itself with the stem from scholars, unfortunately, with the fatwa and legitimization. That was followed by 1 century of colonization, 12 centuries of dictatorship and 1 century of colonization. And that century of colonization was followed by now several decades of totalitarian regimes. Many of them are military even governments. That's in a nutshell, or in brief, our history. We talked about why, first of all, that we need to accept that this has caused tremendous damage to the Muslim mind, to the Muslim personality, and to the Muslim mind and to the Muslim personality. We talked about why the situation lasted so long, explained why we have those bright spots in our history and those great achievements. They were individual work, and many of them were suppressed. Both the religious scholars, all 4 leaders of 4 madhab, they were tortured and jailed and beaten. And then the scientists that we are proud of in our history, many of them, they ended up being oppressed also, unfortunately. And because the root causes were never addressed, and the diagnosis was always superficial or partial, all attempts to fix that situation have failed. And that's a reality. It's a sad reality that we have to accept. And in spite of the good intentions, people have the best of intentions, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of efforts, yet change did not happen. And we mentioned 3 cases, 3 major attempts. One is the resistance movement against the occupation, against colonization. It's a great work, a lot of sacrifice. They succeeded to liberate the land, but what happened after that? They ended up with a dictatorial or oppressive, corrupt regimes. So change did not happen, even though the occupation was pushed away. Number 2 was the Islamic movement, same. They identified that the problem is that people have left Islam, so the solution is to bring them back to Islam. They succeeded. They brought people back to the mosques and to Islam, but nothing changed in the society. And the most recent one was the Arab Spring. Problem was identified as these dictators, not the roots. So if we remove this regime, things will work. Now those regimes were removed in Libya, in Tunisia, in Yemen, etc. What happened? Change was not achieved. So all of these achieved their goals, solved what they believed is the problem, but did not change the situation. After we accept that's our current situation and reject or don't accept it as normal, don't try to adapt to it or to justify it, after we believe that we must and we can close the gap, and after we accept responsibility for what happened to us and for changing it, then then we should decide and make a pledge that we're going to do whatever it takes to close that gap and to change our situation and to regain the position and the status that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for us. هو اجتباكم. Selected you for what? لتكونوا شهداء على الناس. You become in the forefront and to become the role models and the leaders for humanity. Then the question is, where do we start? That's a summary of like 3 khotbah. Where do we start? Now, in answering this question, we need to first to forget about any quick or easy change. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to be honest with yourself. There are no quick solutions for this. Anybody who thinks that if we do something like in weeks or in months, it will affect the desired change is not going to happen. And it may lead even more harm than good. Second, we have to be ready to pay the price. Nothing is cheap. People, when they want to get a degree, they work hard for 4 years, day in, day out. People, when they want to establish successful business, they work so nothing is cheap. You want to change your situation, this horrible situation we are in, to become advanced nations and where justice is established, and you want this to happen without paying the price, you're fooling yourself. Nothing is cheap and nothing can happen without paying the price for it. Look at all the nations who were able to jump and see how much sacrifice they made to reach that point. Read the story of any successful country, starting from the German after World War II, how they bounced back. South Korea after the Korean War, etc. All of them. Japan after World War II. Vietnam after complete destruction in the 70s. Look how people bounced back, and you realize that nothing is going to happen by itself or happen by daydreaming or wishful thinking. People have to pay the price for that change. The question is where we start, but you know there is a saying that says begin with the end in mind. Every time you want to begin something, make sure that you have the end in your mind so that you stay focused, so that you don't lose your way. It's like when you're driving, you plug the address and then you drive. Same thing in your life. We should begin with the end in mind. Where are we heading? And the end for us is the following. If Muslim community, any community, does not rally behind a mission and behind the true leadership, nothing is going to happen. Again, if you don't see a Muslim community, whether a community in one mosque, or a community in Northern Virginia, or a community, if you don't see this model implemented, which is the prophetic model. The prophetic model is a model of community that is bound by a mission. That's what glue them together and make them true brothers. And then by true leadership. And that's what made them unstoppable. And unless you see this, or until you see this, nothing is going to happen. So everything that we talk about practically should lead to this point. Because only after this point, things are going to start to happen, but not before that. So again, imagine it's the prophetic model implemented, is a community consists of mission-driven individual, and it is mission-driven or purpose-driven community, and it has true leadership. And we'll talk about how this can make all the difference in the world. Because why I'm saying this, if you want to describe the transformation that happened among the Arabs before and after Islam, Arabs and then everybody else, but it starts in Medina and Mecca. If you want to describe the transformation that happened, what changed? You will find yourself pointing to these two things. These people, they were living with no mission in life. They were just living, like us nowadays. They were just living. And then Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this deen, gave them a purpose in their life, or a mission. So now they start living for a cause. And then they used to be totally disorganized. Now they are organized with the true leadership, with all the discipline. That's what produced that success story. And you know, what many of us do not know is that this happened before people learned how to pray or how to fast. So this transformation happened from the early days. Like Ala Yasir died before they knew about Ramadan and Zakat and Hajj, etc. All of this came later in the deen. So what changed is they used to be people who are just living, and they were enslaved and exploited. And this deen came to free them, and they give them a mission, give them a purpose in life, and then give them a leadership. Mission and leadership, that's the equation. And that's not happening nowadays. So before Islam and after Islam, that's what changed. What changed in those individuals and in that community is the fact that they become people who have a cause to live for, and they have the true leadership. And that's again before they learn anything about Islam. But that's what they made. They made that shahada. They pledged to the Prophet that we are embracing Islam as our cause. We're going to do whatever it takes in pursuit of Ridwanullah, fi sabilillah, and then we are taking you as a leader, as our leader. What that produced? That produced something that we're lacking nowadays. One, sustained mobilization. Underline sustain. Sustain means continuous mobilization. Now nowadays we can get mobilized. A lot of time we get mobilized. Recently Gaza, people went out and have few demonstrations and mobilized. But where is that now? Gone. Mobilization is not sustained. We are reactionary now. We wait for something to happen, we react to it temporarily, and then we go home. That was not the case at that time. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam instilled in the companions or achieved sustained mobilization. And second, sustained unity. True unity. And true brotherhood. That's what makes that community so compact, so solid, so disciplined. Is that they are converging by mission and they call it nowadays unity of purpose and unity of leadership. If you have these two in a community, that community will be unstoppable. Now we go to the Quran and we find the recipe for this. We find the plan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون ولتكن منكم أمة unity ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah Al-Imran, verse 1 or 2 says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold fast, all of you together, to the rope of Allah. That's unity. Why this unity? That's coming in the next verse. And be not divided among yourselves. Now, nowadays we are not united and we are not divided. We come here to pray, we don't even know each other. So that's not how the prophetic community was. Do not be divided, and remember, Allah's favors on you, for you were enemies one to another, but He joined your hearts together, so that by His grace you became brothers. And you were on the brink of a pit of fire, and He saved you from it. Thus Allah makes His proofs clear to you that you may be guided. So that's unity, call for unity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it's a favor and blessing from Him that you are united. So there is an instruction, وَاعْتَصِمُوا. It's not an option. And how people were united? Again, they have common cause. They had rallying mission that converged all their efforts. And then comes the next way. Why do we unite? Let there arise of you group of people inviting to all that is good, enjoining al-ma'ruf and all that Islam orders, and forbidding al-munkar or anything that Islam forbids. Very clear. You're gonna have to be united by a mission or united for a mission. The moment Muslims abandon their mission, the moment that unity and that mobilization collapse. And then no mission, no need for leadership. That's why nowadays we don't feel the need for leadership. We just need some good people to manage the mosque. Why? We don't have a cause. If you don't have a cause, there is no need for leadership. The whole Islamic paradigm collapsed when people abandoned the mission of Islam. Tazkiyah collapsed. Why tazkiyah? Because tazkiyah is preparation for a mission. It's like the teams, they work throughout the week so that they can perform on the game day, Sunday, or whenever they play. So if you tell them that the game was cancelled, then there is no point. Same thing for a student. Worked so hard for the exam. Come to any student, tell them the exam was cancelled. Immediately, they will leave their desk. Why? That's what tazkiyah is. So tazkiyah collapsed, leadership collapsed, unity collapsed, brotherhood collapsed. Why? Because the glue that produced that unity was abandoned, and therefore the whole Islamic paradigm rests on that mission. The moment Muslims abandon their mission, the moment there is no need for leadership, no need for tazkiyah, no need for unity, no need for brotherhood. We can accept injustice. Everybody is minding their own business. Everybody is trying to get by and to adapt. This formula, this description of the prophetic community does not apply to us. Make no mistake about it, and let's not fool ourselves. The way we organize, and we want to focus on it does not apply to us here and in the Muslim world. This idea of being organized around a mission and around leadership. Our level of organization, if we want to focus here, our current level of organization, of course, is better than nothing. There is no question about it. We have a mosque that we gather, we have Jumu'ah, we have some Islamic activities and services, etc. But this level of organization is good, you know, for whom? This level of organization was good and maybe acceptable for an immigrant community who are here for a limited time. And during that time, they want to preserve their identity until they go home. If that's the purpose, then this level of organization is good. All what you need is a mosque, place to pray, basic Islamic activities and services, and people to manage that facility. But if you want to fulfill the mission of Islam and become impactful community here and affect change and make difference, this level of organization will not produce that. Make no mistake about it. This level of organization is good for that. Anybody who come from overseas, come from Muslim country, they will find a place to pray, they will find maybe some weekend school for their children, they will find the basic needs to preserve their identity. But that's not a mission-driven community. We don't have a rallying mission, and we don't have a true leadership. What we have small number of people who are doing their best and sometimes exhausted to keep things going, to manage the status quo, so that the bills are paid, the masjid is clean, Jumu'ah is held, to keep the status quo. And unfortunately, in every mosque, majority are spectators. The majorities, they are not even involved. That's not the prophetic model. And that's not going to help us closing the gap between where we are and where we're supposed to be. So again, this was good for that immigrant community, but not for a community that want to affect change or be impactful or to be shuhada al-nas, model and leading community as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be. Now, how do we get to that point? Remember, the end game is what? A community united by a mission, mobilized by a mission, and united by true leadership. Now the question is how, if that's the purpose, if that's what's going to get us where we want to be, then how do we get to that point? I believe we have only one option to do this, or the only option that is available for us. It's a grassroots or bottom-up. If we're going to wait for somebody to come and do this for us, maybe we're going to wait forever. We're going to wait for a Mahdi, for someone to come and fix our situations. Probably we're going to wait forever. But it has to come from the grassroots, from you and myself and you and everybody. I don't think we have any other options because I think we waited for too long for a magic leader or who's going to turn the situation around, and it did not happen most of the time. So the key point or the starting point is a saying that I recommend that all of us really know it and implement it. What do they say? It says, be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. كن أنت التغيير الذي تريد أن تراه في الواقع. You model the change, transformation. If we're going to be the same individual, thinking the same way, doing things the same way, then the situation will be the same. Because remember, insanity is defined as what? Doing the same thing, expecting different results. So nothing is going to change until you do. Nothing is going to change until you do. If you're going to continue to sit down and talk about the community as if the community it's an abstract entity, then we're going nowhere. The community is you and I. We are the community. So if things are not working, every one of us need to push their limits, do more, or do things differently, but not blaming, especially blaming those who are doing their best and they're exhausted just to keep things going and to keep things running. So be the change you want to see in the world. Start the journey. If you want to be more specific, start sooner rather than later. The journey of rediscovering the original Islam and embrace it wholeheartedly as a life mission. Rediscover your deen. Rediscover the deen that was lost and twisted over the centuries of stagnation and oppression. Rediscover the inspiring and empowering religion that produced the leaders that we want, that we know, the great companions. We need to rediscover that true and original version of Islam and embrace it. Pledge sooner rather than later. Make the pledge to dedicate your life to understand and fulfill the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fahm wa infad muradillah. That's what our religion is all about. When the companions came to the Prophet ﷺ to declare their shahada, that's what they had in mind. That they are pledging to dedicate their lives and themselves to fulfill the purpose of Allah, to fulfill infad muradillah. So whatever it takes, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to be, they are there. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks them to do, they respond with no hesitation. Why? Because they signed on blank sheet. When they came to declare their shahada to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they pledged themselves and pledged to dedicate their lives and themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make that pledge to Allah and ask Him to help you and guide you in that journey, because it's not an easy journey. A lot of things have to change in the way we think and the way we operate and the way we behave and the way we make decisions and make choices in life. A lot of things we need to go through similar transformation, like the transformation that the Sahaba went through. Yes, alhamdulillah, we're starting from better point, because some of these, they were idol worshippers, and Islam transformed them completely. Alhamdulillah, we are at least, we're tawheed, we're praying, we're in much better starting position, but we still need the same transformation. We need the same transformation, even though we're starting from a better position. By the way, we're starting from better position even as communities, because the community of Rasulullah ﷺ was in the most unfavorable conditions that you can think of. It hardly could be worse. Yet Islam produced that great success story. Alhamdulillah, we are large in numbers, we have a lot of resources, we have lots of opportunities. Compared to the situation in Mecca or even in Medina, when there was very hostile environment. In Medina, now we are in much better position to produce that success stories. And if you need a mentor, look for a mentor. If you need somebody to help you in that journey, and that's something that inshallah we're going to come back to it, it should become very common in our community, this idea of mentorship. And yesterday, alhamdulillah, this last week, I was approached by someone and they sat down with him yesterday. He said, just, can you mentor me? I said, that's my pleasure. I love to do that. And brother, full of potential, just needs some guidance, very promising, but needs someone to guide and to identify how, because what is mentorship at the end of the day, which is an Islamic concept, by the way. And why it is, I find the pleasure to do it, because that's the job of the Prophet, yuzakkihim. And tazkiyah, it's even bigger than mentorship. Mentorship is helping someone to realize their potential, to discover their potential and realize it. Tazkiyah has the religious component on top of that. Has the religious component on top of helping someone realizing their potential. So, and if you're looking for a very practical starting point, it's the one I mentioned over and over again. Start by taking the Quran as a class. Study. Start that journey of studying the Quran and dealing with it the way that with your textbook in college. With taking notes, searching the meaning, asking, etc. Nowadays, students watch videos, go online to understand concepts. Why? Because they're serious about it. Can't we do the same thing with the Quran? No, we can, and we should. And let nobody tell you that you cannot understand Quran, because that's not true. That's the very specific and practical point, and Quran can open the way for your journey to continue. If you just start doing that, and we'll mention, inshallah, how this will make all the difference, and how this will put you on track for that journey to be successful. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب اليه، نعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا، من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, as you know and you're watching and following, things are not looking very promising in the Middle East, and it can be even much worse. So we can only pray that things will not go down to an all-out war, because at the end of the day, it's going to be disastrous for all the countries and all the people in the region. We already had the people of Gaza suffering for so long, people of Sudan suffering for so long, and people in Syria, etc. We really reached limits. We cannot afford to see major war and distractions everywhere. So pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to spare the region something like this, especially in the light of this assassination, which is very, very strange. I mean, any other country, if it did this, the whole Security Council would have met and decision was taken, but there are some countries that are above the law. They can go and assassinate and could do whatever they want, whatever they want, anytime they want, with impunity. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spare the region an all-out war that will be, again, detrimental and disastrous for all the countries. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا توفنا وتراضى عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا ما نلقاك. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا